Sometimes you come across a story that's literally reshaping an entire nation. Today, we're diving into India's massive logistics overhaul and a company that's right at the heart of it all, Jupiter Wagons Ltd. They're building the actual hardware, everything from train cars to high-tech batteries, that's powering this incredible transformation. So let's get into it. Okay, so to really get what Jupiter Wagons is all about, you've got to first picture what's happening in India right now. We're talking about a massive nationwide infrastructure push. They are completely revamping how everything, goods, people, moves around by road, rail, and sea. This is way more than just a few new highways. It's like they're rewiring the country's entire economic nervous system.
All right, here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we'll look at this logistics boom. Then, what does Jupiter Wagons actually build? We'll dig into the numbers, see how they're planning for a sustainable future, and finally, what the journey ahead looks like for them.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, India's logistics boom. And look, this isn't just about pouring concrete and laying track. It's a fundamental economic strategy. The whole point is to make moving goods faster, cleaner, and way more competitive on the world stage.
So think about it. When a country decides to strengthen every single link in its logistics chain, what happens? You get this massive, massive wave of demand. Suddenly, you need tons of new railway wagons, you need modern commercial vehicles, advanced equipment for ports, and even green energy solutions to power it all. This is the sweet spot. This is exactly where a company like Jupiter Wagons steps in.
Okay, so how is Jupiter Wagons actually tapping into this massive opportunity? Let's take a look at what they actually make. And you're going to see that their product list is super diverse, touching all these different parts of this new logistics ecosystem. Okay, so at its core, this is a heavy industry company. We're talking railway wagons, of course, but also all the crucial bits and pieces, like wheels and brake discs. They also build the bodies for trucks, the tippers and tankers you see on the road, plus standard shipping containers. But here's where it gets really interesting. They're also making a big push into high-tech, specifically with batteries and energy storage systems. And this image here, it's a perfect example of what they do on the ground. This isn't just some abstract business plan. Jupiter Wagons is physically building the essential hardware that keeps the country's commerce flowing, like these tipper bodies rolling right out of their factories. It's the real, heavy-duty stuff.
So, I mentioned that move into high-tech, right? Well, this is a huge part of it. BESS. That stands for Battery Energy Storage System. Basically, just think of it as a really big, really smart battery. It stores up energy either from the power grid or from renewables like solar, so you can use it later, whenever you need it. It gives you a super stable and reliable source of power.
So why is this such a big deal? Well, just take a look at this comparison. These BES units are a massive upgrade from old-school diesel generators. For starters, they're quiet, they have zero emissions, and they're way cheaper to run. Honestly, it's a huge technological leap forward for providing power, especially for places that are off-grid or remote. And get this. This is what makes their BES story so important. This isn't just a domestic thing. Jupiter Wagons is already exporting these advanced BES units straight to the USA. That is a huge milestone. It shows that their tech isn't just good enough for India. It's world-class, good enough to compete on the global stage. It puts them right in the middle of the international green energy movement. All right, so we've seen the big picture and we've seen the products. But the real question is it all working? Is the strategy paying off? Well, let's dive into the numbers, because they tell a pretty compelling story. And what better place to start than with a quote from the company's Deputy Managing Director, Vikash Lohia. He says, "Our revenue reached 3,963 crore rupees, reflecting our industry-leading profitability." And that last part, industry-leading profitability, that's the key phrase to remember. We're about to see it in the data. So first up, the big one, total revenue. Last fiscal year, they pulled in nearly 4,000 crore rupees. That is a huge number, and it just gives you a sense of the sheer scale we're talking about here. And it's not like they're just sitting still. That revenue grew by 9% year over year. That's solid momentum, showing they're continuing to capture more and more of this booming market. Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting. Let's talk about their EBITDA margin. If you're not familiar, just think of it as a measure of a company's core profitability from its main operations. Theirs is sitting at 14.6%, which is really healthy. But here's the kicker. That margin grew by 18% in just 1 year. So that's the real story here. Jupiter Wagons isn't just getting bigger, it's getting way more efficient and a lot more profitable at the same time. All right, so when you've got that kind of financial strength, it gives you the freedom to think about the long game. So in this next part, we're going to look at how Jupiter Wagons is trying to build a sustainable future, moving beyond just the bottom line. And it's not just talk. They have a really clear, structured plan for managing their environmental footprint. It really breaks down into three key areas. First, water. They're using water-efficient tech and harvesting rainwater. Second, waste. They're all about lean manufacturing, recycling, and reusing materials. And third, emissions. They're bringing in renewable energy and updating their manufacturing to be cleaner.
And, this commitment doesn't stop at the factory gate. Last fiscal year, they invested almost 5 crore rupees into their CSR, their corporate social responsibility initiatives. And that money is going towards really important community stuff, like preventative health care, education, and even promoting local sports.
Okay, so what's next on the horizon for Jupiter Wagons? In our last section, let's look at the road ahead, how they plan to handle the challenges that are bound to come up while also grabbing all the opportunities they can. Look, no company gets a free ride. There are always risks, and it looks like Jupiter Wagons is being pretty proactive about managing them. So for example, to deal with unpredictable raw material costs, they're centralizing how they buy steel. To stay ahead of the competition, they're building stronger relationships with their key partners. To handle new tech, they're investing in smart manufacturing and upskilling their people. And to protect against economic downturns, they're diversifying where and what they sell. It's a really smart, strategic way to look at the future.
And that brings us to the big question at the end of all this. Jupiter Wagons seems perfectly positioned, right? They're ready to ride this huge wave of India's infrastructure boom. But the real challenge for them, and really for any company in this kind of position, is this. How do you balance that kind of explosive growth with building a truly sustainable footprint? How they answer that question, well, that's what's going to define their story from here on out.